Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your sun in Sagittarius and Cancer rising. Sagittarius and Cancer form what is called an inconjunction when two signs are 150 degrees apart. The official inconjunctions will occur when the 2 points are within a certain degree span. Doesn't have to be exactly 150 degrees, but it has to have like a certain range. And yet, I don't really care about whether your sun or rising are officially in conjunction. The two signs that are at play here are enough to create a similar effect, whether they actually are considered in conjunction officially. And the whole idea of the inconjunction is that it's supposed to represent two planets that are just or two signs within two astrological points that are so different in how they express themselves that they have nothing in common, and so it's a very awkward angle. And I have the sun in Sagittarius, and my rising sign is Taurus. And this is another inconjunction, and mine is actually an inconjunction. So I have familiarity with being a Sagittarius and having a rising sign as an inconjunction. And for me, it's going to present itself differently because my rising sign is different than Cancer. But how it expressed for me was having this Taurus rising sign and really feeling this desire to dress in a very provocative, sexy way when I was younger, up until the age of 30, which is something that I actually read about and which I assume is connected to the first Saturn return and kind of not needing to go into this. Maybe it's a programmed response based on the family of origin, the rising sign, because that's when you come into the world, your rising sign. And when it is very different from the sun sign, maybe you are the black sheep. Maybe you are somebody who doesn't feel like you are understood very much, because this could lend itself, if you have the sun in Cancer, in Sag and Cancer rising, it could lend itself to being different from your family. Maybe you're not the black sheep, but maybe you don't feel like you're like them. You do feel apart from them. And it doesn't, I'm sure there are times even when people feel different than their family members where it's not necessarily traumatic or anything like that, but it's something that could be a dynamic in your life where there's a disconnect between how you present yourself and how you really are. And I think as we get older, as we get into our 30s and beyond, we do grow into our sun signs more, and therefore we're able to express ourselves in a way that is more consistent with that sun sign. But just in general, to give some idea of what might be at play here, with the rising sign, this can actually be the physical appearance. You are ruled by the moon, since Cancer is on the ascendant, and the moon can represent an emotional nature. Of course, Cancer is a water sign, so that as well represents that. But the idea of, for Cancer, sometimes it's being moody. It's being in this, it's having very changeable moods. 1 minute you're laughing, 1 minute you're crying. Or just feeling kind of crabby. Cancer is the crab. And maybe wearing your heart on your sleeve because it's a rising sign. So your emotions are on display for others and they can see. And you might say, well, isn't that good to be honest about your emotions? Well, yes and no. Of course, you don't want to be fake about how you're feeling, but by the same token, um, I do feel that people have to learn how to um, cope with their emotions to the extent where they can uh, still do what they need to do and not bring them with them everywhere they go. So you can still feel like, oh, damn, I'm in a bad mood, but it doesn't show up in how you treat other people, or, if you work with the public, you're not going to be sulking and brooding and that kind of thing. And sometimes people are like that. You can see that they have a hard time if they're not feeling good. It's hard for them to just um, put that aside. I don't want to say fake it because I don't think that it's a form of faking emotions. I just think it's being able to compartmentalize and function when you need to in a way where you're not just constantly being controlled by your emotions. When you were young, you may have been known as the crybaby, the child who was very sensitive, because Cancer is super sensitive, and that could have made you upset if you were teased for that. It depends, with the Sun in Sag, there is going to be more resilience to, or is it resiliency? To the those kinds of teasing, because Sagittarius is a masculine sign and it's kind of like more able to, as a fire sign, to kind of not take things too personally. So maybe it was more a problem when you were very young, and then as you got older, you were able to handle that better. And who knows, maybe it didn't even affect you that way. It would be very good to know your moon sign to see, if the balance is tipped one way or the other. If you have a water sign moon sign, then this would probably be much more likely that you would have this um, very sensitive nature. If it's in air, or if it's in the other elements, it might be it might have been easier for you to handle your sensitivity. But there's a self-protection that Cancer can have, and that can lead a Sagittarian who has this to be a bit reticent. Sag is known as a extrovert because it's a fire sign, but if Cancer's on the ascendant, you might be more sensitive and less likely to showcase that. And your rising sign, you could call your calling card, where it's something that other people see firsthand, or at first. We all know that when we deal with people on a superficial level, we may form one opinion of them, and then when we spend more time with them, we see these other sides to them. And then we realize that that was just kind of on the surface, in a sense, and it wasn't really who they were. One of the things that this can do, like let's say a woman has this and she may have a moon face. If you're a female Sag who has this combination, you may have a moon face, and you may have a very gentle manner that belies your Sag sun sign. Again, the moon sign may factor into this in terms of how you convey your emotions, but I just feel like it can be very gentle, it can be very nurturing and almost old-fashioned in a sense. And you may even dress in an old-fashioned way. I was thinking, how do people dress in an old-fashioned way um, without being like Little House on the Prairie? Because, I mean, there are people, whether it's the Amish or the Mennonites, whatever, these people that dress in those Little House on the Prairie, I would call them costumes, but that's their dress. But for the people that are in mainstream society, I would say for women, it's wearing those old 40s dresses, those A-line skirts or dresses. I really like those where they kind of are reminiscent of maybe yeah, did I say 40s? I meant like the 40s or even the 50s, but just like an older time frame. And you may even really wear a lot of dresses for a Sagittarian woman. And then people discover that you're a Sag, and it's very interesting because there might be some confusion, and this may even be in terms of the people that you attract to you, having Cancer as a rising sign, whether it's female friends or potential partners. This kind of thing can be puzzling to you if you consider yourself, if you really identify with your Sag elements. And so you may have a lot of friends that are earth or water and they may think that they know you based on that part of you, but it's only one part of you. Because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and the house that it belongs to is the 9th house. It's a house of expansion. So long distance travel, foreigners, higher education, God, so religion. The law is connected to the 9th house. And all of these areas, it's about expanding your mind. Well, it's actually the higher mind. So it's not just this. Yeah, you could say the university is still in the mundane is in mundane territory, but it's supposed to be of a higher nature and more of your input into what you believe. And so that's why the 9th house is your life philosophy. That's the meaning of life. Why am I here? These kinds of questions are lofty questions, and that's why they're connected to the 9th house. But Cancer rules the 4th house of home and family. So it's a very personal area. It's in the bottom hemisphere of the chart. So it's considered more of the personal houses, the first 6 houses, and therefore there may be a dichotomy within yourself, and this will probably dissipate as you get older, but of wanting to be a homebody and wanting to be out there in the world. And just like the concept of the divine feminine, the divine masculine, which has nothing to do with a person's gender, but are energies that we all need to balance within ourselves to be balanced people. The same thing applies with this, because we have the feminine and the masculine principles. How do they combine? How do you combine this love of adventure with love of home and that kind of very intimate space? And having children and being free. Can you find freedom within starting a family? This is a question that I think all Sages have to ask themselves at some point. And, the ones who are really engaging the issue can say, hey, I can, buy what do you call it? Like a camper or some kind of a I want to say trailer, but you know what I mean? One of those things that you can sleep in. We can RV, and I can we can travel around the country and we don't have to sacrifice one thing for the other. And these kinds of attitudes mean that the person is integrating both aspects of themselves. I could see this combination actually as a great history teacher because Cancer rules history in the past, I should say the past, that's what history is. Usually we associate with, because Sag rules the ninth house, and that's academia, that would be more of the college, university level of study. But with Cancer, I think of a teacher that's like an elementary school teacher or an early childhood teacher, and I could definitely see this combination doing something along those lines. There may even be something, I was thinking, like, I always think of Cancer with feeding people, nurturing people, starting a restaurant that is a foreign cuisine, a cuisine that is very exotic, that's foreign to your own, maybe somewhere you went on your travels. And also being a traveler and a very well-traveled person who may either be like looking at each place as their home, you know, while they're traveling. That's what some people do. It's really funny to me because I don't feel that particular need, but some people, wherever they are, if they're going to be spending a little bit of extended time other than overnight, they really want to personalize their space. That's a kind of a Cancerian trait. And being able to create that for yourself, but knowing that you truly are comfortable as a nomad, even if you do these little things that remind you of the familiar. So even though these two signs seem, so far apart, they can be, both of these can be emotional in their own way. Luckily, Sag is more objective and less into the personal drama, and Cancer does rule the past. And so you may, if you did have a very nice, beautiful childhood, that can stick with you, and you can be a happier adult as a result, because you will think back to your earlier days fondly, and it can just enhance that cheerful Sag demeanor, because as we know, um, sometimes people don't have happy childhoods, and therefore they have to, or they feel the need to escape those childhoods by never talking about it, by just kind of acting like it, putting it behind them, acting like it never existed. But this combination, if the person had a decent childhood, they may love to reminisce about things that happened when they were young. And the Sag in them will have a positivity, like an expansive viewpoint of the things that happen to them, even if they were not so pleasant. They can look at it from a bigger picture, and they can still see it from a positive stance. In terms of relationships, this is an area that may create issues. Look again to the moon sign for more information. For instance, if your moon is in Scorpio, it's like, wow. Because, by the way, being a Sag, you might have inner planets in Scorpio. And you could have inner planets in Libra, and that will make you more detached. And although that Libra energy will square with the ascendant. So it can be one of those things with the ascendant that a person is misunderstood. Like if you have Libra, let's say you have Mars in Libra and it squares the ascendant, you might be somebody who is trying to keep the peace, but you always seem to piss people off. You always seem to get people. It's like people don't trust that you're really a peaceful person, and you don't understand why. And it's because your rising sign, Cancer, may inadvertently kind of guilt people or be too clingy in some way, and people are very kind of put off by that. And there would have to be other reasons why that would occur, because definitely Sag is very much the sign that loves freedom and stuff. But I'm just trying to explain that sometimes people can be in their professional life, they can be very on point, and they don't have any, they're very detached, but it's their love life or their when they're raising children where these things tend to rear their ugly heads. And the person may truly not understand why they feel the way that they feel. And what I would say is that they're, if other factors contribute to that, where you didn't have the kind of support you needed from parents, you might feel like a motherless child. You know that song? I feel like a motherless child. And you might always have been searching as a child for a mother substitute. The mother may have passed away, or maybe was unavailable in some ways. By the way, the rising sign does not determine this, that somebody was not there. I'm talking about if you really highlighted those tendencies of Cancer in the shadow aspect, to be very emotionally dependent, clingy type of behavior. That is the kind of behavior of somebody that has likely had some kind of insecure attachment with their parent, and that leads to just insecurity, emotional insecurity their whole life, until they really tackle that. And it might be, something that ultimately is a spiritual solution than anything else, because we can intellectually understand why we do what we do, but it doesn't mean that we're going to solve that problem. But going back to the women, you may give off this, for lack of a better term, Earth Mother vibe. I know it's not an Earth sign, but just that consummate mother vibe. And then you have this other side that makes your partner a little bit, confused as to whether or not you really would want to do this, because you might be not so eager, or you might keep putting it off. But if it does happen, you could be somebody traveling around in an RV and just really enjoying being on the road and showing your children that there's a big world out there. It's not just contained to their little neighborhood or what have you. So the best way, I think, to balance these energies is just to honor both sides of yourself, even if they seem like diametrically opposed. Don't get too caught up in how different these pieces of yourself are. What came into my mind is, you might be a woman who, or a man who has like an inexplicable urge to learn to crochet, or to knit, or do something old timey. There's an old fashioned quality to Cancer. And rather than try to justify it, especially as a woman I'm recording this in 2022, like, oh, that's regressive. Women don't have to do that. Yeah, they don't have to, but maybe they want to. Maybe you want to do things that are associated with feminine behaviors, and you allow yourself that, and same with the males, that you allow yourself to be um, that way. For the men, learning, you might have a very sensitive side to yourself. Now, it is true that the male water signs, even, with the ascendant, this could happen, might be more inclined to try to hide this because you feel like men don't do this kind of thing. But the more that you can be vulnerable and open, I think it's going to be very appealing to other people, because sometimes Sagittarius get accused of being insensitive, have their foot in their mouth, and can we deny that that's true? I don't think so. So just being aware and embracing the softer side of you is a very good thing. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.